Welcome to On the Line. I'm Jenny Robb, and I'm so excited that again we have our featured author, Frank Giampaolo, with us as we continue our series delving deeper into his book, The Psychology of Tennis Parenting. So I would like to introduce Frank to you fully. He is awesome. And so just so you know how awesome he is, here we go. Frank Giampaolo is an award-winning international coach, popular international speaker, and sports researcher. He's an instructional writer for ITF, Coaching and Sports Science Review, UK Tennis Magazine, PTR Magazine, the USPTA, Tennis Magazine, Tennis Pro Magazine, and Tennis View Magazine. Frank is both a USPTA and PTR award-winning educator, the Tennis Congress faculty member, served as the vice chair of the USTA SCTA Coaches Commission, and a featured speaker at the Australian Grand Slam Coaches Convention, the PTR Great Britain Wimbledon Conference, and Wingate Sports Institute in Israel. Frank is the best-selling author of Championship Tennis, The Tennis Parents Bible, which is awesome. We've gone through that in the past as well. And there's two volumes, volumes 1 and 2, and they're awesome. Emotional Aptitude in Sports, Neuropriming for Peak Performance, Raising Athletic Royalty, The Soft Science of Tennis, Preparing for Pressure, Innovative Tennis Charting, that's a fun one, How to Attract a College Tennis Scholarship, also a really important one, and Customized Player Assessment, also very important. His television appearances include the NBC Today Show, OCN World Team Tennis, Fox Sports, Tennis Canada, and Tennis Australia. Frank founded the Tennis Parents Workshops in 1998, conducting workshops across the United States, Mexico, Israel, New Zealand, Australia, England, Canada, and Spain. I would like to go on that trip. Frank's commitment to coaching excellence helped to develop over 100 national champions, hundreds of NCAA athletes, numerous NCAA All-Americans, and several professional athletes. His innovative approach has made him a worldwide leader in athletic parental education. So, Frank, welcome back. Thank you again for taking the time to be here as we continue our series going through the psychology of tennis parenting. Thank you for being here.
No, thanks so much. I kind of feel old after that intro.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about a lot of those things in a while. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. It's awesome, and you're awesome. Okay, so you had told me that you were looking forward to chapter 4 and that I was going to love chapter 4. And you were 100% correct. This is such a fun chapter. And I love the name of this chapter. We've talked about the unique names of your chapters, and this one in particular, I just really, really love it. It was one that I had not thought of before. And so stacking momentum, I was immediately intrigued about stacking momentum. And the quote that you have at the beginning of the chapter is getting good versus earning good. Very interesting. So before we get into each of the points, tell us a little bit about your vision for chapter 4 and where we go from here.
Well, it's all, although it is part of the psychology of, raising an athlete, it's really like a coaching handbook as well, right? So talking about preparation and how we do prepare kids for competition that's meaningful. As you know, parents are the weekend coaches typically. So the parent and the actual coach should be communicating a ton. Stacking momentum is really meaningful, and I do really believe the idea that you don't get good, you earn it. And it's kind of like the same concept of nobody else can give you inner belief. Inner belief comes from inside of you, which is based on what are you doing on the practice court? What are you doing every week to push past, your comfortable old habits and choices and getting into the uncomfortable and getting into the new. That's what creates confidence. And the inner belief stems from your ability, if you're an athlete, to get out of your comfort zone, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
100%. Yes. So that leads us right into talking about preparation. Preparation is your first point here. And you say true confidence stems from your athlete believing that they've adequately prepared for the event. Junior athletes don't miraculously rise to the occasion, they sink to the level of their training. Those 2 points under the preparation heading are just, there's so much truth. There's so much impactful truth in both of those statements. As far as confidence stemming from the athlete believing they're adequately prepared, and you don't miraculously rise to the occasion, sink to the level of their training. So expand those ideas a little bit for us. They're so important.
Well, I think often with athletes, false confidence is thinking they're better than somebody else. And you're really believing that you train properly, but also having the high IQ coaches that will help develop you to train properly. Because sometimes it's confusing and it's misleading. Sometimes we think that just, like quantity of hours on the court equals quality of your development. And that's not true, right?
Right.
The other concept, though, of athletes sinking to their level of their training, sometimes parents and coaches, they think that we're going to, rise to the occasion. And it's like, but those little miracles really don't happen. You don't just rise to the occasion.
Right.
You sink to the level of your training. That's really true. So training should consist of, hardware and software. So those of you that haven't listened to some of the past podcasts that we've been doing, your hardware is your strokes and athleticism, and your software tool belt is mental and emotional. And
right.
You're only training one section of your competitive skill sets, you're probably going to be in trouble.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I had a player a few years ago that was highly ranked in the South, like in the top 5. And the South is a huge area. Like California, there's 2 different sections in just your state, I believe.
Yeah.
So also a big area. And she was a very driven young lady, and her mom was very involved with her training, and her mom is also a really lovely lady. But the mom wanted the daughter to train all the time, and it was she's a high homeschool kid, and there were times that she would be dropped off at the club, and I'd sit with her and go, we really don't need to do a whole lot today. She had been plagued by injuries, mostly of the overuse kind. And she'd be like, my mom's going to ask me, what I did today. And I'm like, well, I don't want you to lie to your mom, but one of the main things you need to do today should really kind of be a recovery day. So we can do some light hitting or stretching or something. I said, but we're not going to, be on the court 4 hours today. You need, your body needs to heal, you're growing. So that was a hard concept to get on board with the parent, because she had great intentions. Like I said, she's a lovely lady. She needed some guidance. That's all, so that's just a quick story there. But so a little bit more about preparation. We say advanced competitors embrace the discipline of development long before the consistent winning begins. I love that. Consistent winning. That doesn't just happen. I mean, like we've said before, in tennis, you're going to lose a lot. You're going to lose more than you win, especially in the beginning. And so to have the parent mentally and emotionally prepared for that part of the journey, as well as the junior, is
Yeah.
just it's so important. So anyway, I love the idea of, advanced competitors embrace the discipline of development long before the consistent winning begins. So tell us a little bit more about that statement.
Well, often with intermediate players, you'll see their actions. They don't really match their words. So their words might say they want to be a top player. Their actions say they want to be a normal teenager, which is fine, right?
Right.
It's pretty typical.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I think one of the keys with that topic was players sometimes think at the intermediate level they'll train harder after they start winning. So like I'll train like a pro, after I become a pro. That kind of concept, right?
Right.
But
Right.
growth and development, you have to get way better before you start beating the better people. And so
That's
that comes first. And that's something that a lot of kids don't really buy into.
right.
That the improvement comes way before, the accolades and the trophies and that type of thing. So
No, that's just so true. And I think just putting that out there to the parent is so important, whether they know tennis or not, but especially
yeah,
if they're not familiar with tennis, to look at a parent and say, this is not t-ball. It's not like your team's going to win everything and then you're going to go to all stars and everybody's fabulous. It's like, this is going to be a long journey before the winning starts. And so I think, it's so huge to know that going in. And a lot of people don't.
yeah. I think if parents can promote to their child that you have to outlearn and outwork
Yes.
everybody in your sphere, everybody that within a 2 or 3 hour drive from your house, you have to be outworking these people if you
That's right.
feel you're going to get ahead of them, right?
That's right.
But it's tough to do, and but again, that's the difference between a high performance athlete that's going to go to college and
Mhm.
get a scholarship and
Mhm.
play at that level. So yeah, preparation is key, right?
Yep. So I put a extra star in my notes next to this one. But it says the champion is born when the willingness to outlearn and outwork their rivals supersede their need for approval. There's a whole lot going on in that statement. Because anytime you throw in, a need for approval,
Yeah,
that's like opening Pandora's box. So, I think most of us humans seek approval in a million different ways. And so I just think this, I'm going to read it again because I think it's so important. So the champion is born when the willingness to outlearn and outwork their rivals supersede their need for approval. So I said, I love this beautiful statement. So tell us a little bit more. I know you kind of mentioned it going in, but
yeah.
that's a good point.
It's deep, and teenagers spend a heck of a lot of time on their phones and on social media,
Mhm.
and sometimes they're competing with false realities of social media, right?
Mhm.
Everybody's always happy and everybody's always successful and skinny, even though they're using Photoshop, right? And that kind of thing.
Right.
So, yeah, we're always looking, probably more than ever in this generation, they're looking for praise and approval.
Yes,
And to one up their competition, right? And
exactly.
so I think that really pulls these kids into this kind of a darker state, and it's not really about the praise and approval, because quite honestly, everybody else doesn't really care. They only care about themselves, really.
That's right.
And yeah, they're scrolling through on the phone, right, as they're they might be looking for a second at your picture or your victory, but they're not really buying too much, buying into it. So, yeah, I think that's important. Even in matches, during matches, most athletes, they're focusing on their outcome, what ifs, right? What if I win? What if I lose? What are my parents going to say? What are my friends going to say?
Right. Right.
What are the college coaches going to say? And that's all.
Especially with, the advent of UTR, because you can see the fluctuation. So that really changed things when it's like after this one match, you can see,
Yeah,
a change.
the algorithm is quick, but that's why we see often players do things like they skip the back draw because they don't want to lose somebody
Right.
lower than them because their rating might drop. Or
That's right.
there's that type of thing going on right now, which is it's all about praise and approval, right? And keeping your status.
Yep.
So even though maybe you're only an 8 UTR, right? But
yeah, but the projection, what are you projecting, and projection reality.
Yeah.
And so to kind of close out this segment about preparation, you say fulfillment comes from persevering through hard work. And again, that's such a comforting statement in a way, and an encouraging statement in a way, because perseverance it is so meaningful and impactful, and it's an important skill, in tennis and in life. But talking about fulfillment comes from persevering through the hard work. And I just think that applies to so many things beyond just the tennis court. And from the parental aspect, if you're going through the growing pains, the progression pains of losing or injury, or you're going through that with your athlete, and so the parents have to persevere through that hard work as well, because they're working
that's a good point.
The parents are working hard too, and we all want fulfillment. So the athlete wants fulfillment, the parent wants fulfillment, so does the coach. So I thought that was a really beautiful way to kind of finish up that segment. So I'm so excited about the next segment too. So next we go to stacking momentum, and I just think that is brilliant. I've just never heard it put that way. And so stacking momentum and sort of the cycle of growth idea. You say, how do we assist in stacking momentum? Can you and your athlete identify an incline or decline in activity? So I love this. We're going to kick it off right here, stacking momentum. So how did we get here?
Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure, but momentum, whether it's in a match or in your progression, as you're developing as an athlete, it's bi-directional, right? It could be your momentum is going downward, or it could be going upward, right? And it's really based on, honestly, your momentum and even your outcomes in matches. They're based on your choices and your habits.
Yes.
And these are deeply ingrained. Sometimes they're neural pathways, they're motor programs if it's a stroke, but man, your habits and your choices are what's causing you to win or lose matches. It's not the 2 points the opponent cheated. It's not all these different blame shifting issues we hear, but
right.
Yeah, stacking momentum. That's a really big key, I think. And
definitely.
Yeah. So we can bang into this one a little bit if you like.
Yes, I'm excited. You go on to say momentum is the ongoing upward movement top athletes achieve. And that's so well stated also. I love that it's ongoing. It's not you get to a spot and you're done. It's ongoing. So I love that however, it's Nadal working on his serve. You would think, what does Nadal have to work on? But he's out there working on his serve or whatever the case may be. But the ongoing, I thought that was such an important word in this statement. Upward movements movement top athletes achieve. So just the idea of ongoing is what stuck out to me in that statement. Okay, so in the book we say, you say, here's how to assist your athlete in controlling their learning curve. Document the progressions they've accomplished each day in all four major components. And that's when you go back to hardware as your strokes and athleticism, and software as the mental and emotional side. So let's talk a little bit about, here's how to assist your athlete in controlling their learning curve.
Well, customization is key, right? To maximize potential. That means your child is not going to get into a one size fits all group training situation. If they're trying to maximize potential, if they want to socialize, and that's different. If they want to just group a little bit, that's okay too. But customization is key.
Right.
So with this idea about stacking their momentum, I think it's really big that the athlete is accountable, and they're going to self advocate, and they're going to be the person in charge of organizing their plan, especially if they're in their teenage years. We want them to be in charge, because then it becomes their plan. It's not your idea, it's their idea, right?
Huge, yes.
Yeah. So anyway, like a Friday night, maybe what we would like athletes to do is, let's say they're playing a tournament during the weekend. They're going to write down three performance goals they thought they did pretty darn well in the tournament. 3 things they'd like to improve. Now, every match, whether they play 1, 2, 3, 4 matches in the weekend, they're going to write down these 3 and 3. 3 topics they did well, 3 topics they want to improve. And they're going to put it into their notes in their phone. In their phone, they should have a note file for just tennis, right? Tennis file. So they're going to just send these notes to the coaches on Sunday night. Now, with that in mind, I'd like the athletes to have at least 1 or maybe even 2 topics per hardware, per software. So maybe they might say, with my strokes, I might want to improve my kick second serve and my slice backhand. Great. I need to improve my endurance, because I know now that being match tough is not the same as being tournament tough.
Right.
And winning 6 matches in a weekend is not easy.
That is not easy at all.
Man. And then the software side, what kind of mental things do they have to work on? And remember, mental is more of the X's and O's strategy, the thinking part, and emotions is more of the feeling part, right? Performance anxiety. So they might write down something like, strategy wise, I have to work on my serve +1 patterns because I'm not holding serve.
Right.
Or be detailed enough to say, with performance anxieties, I get a good lead, but they can't close out the lead. I lose my intensity. I lose my focus. I get fearful when I have a lead. But the more the athlete can actually share with the coaches, the better the coaches can actually help the athlete. So it's
absolutely
a circle. Okay, cool.
You say, remind your athletes, please don't confuse the quantity of hitting with the quality of progressions. And so I think that's an important thing, because as you're saying, you're setting these goals, 3 performance goals, or, it's kind of teaching them how to do that. So training what to look for. And instead of just making something up that you put on paper just to get it over with, that you're supposed to do this, the idea of that you're really understanding what you should be looking for, versus just you went out and you hit 100 balls in a row, or the quality of the progressions. You go on to say their ongoing mission is to attend weekly training with a customized developmental plan. Categorize the quality of the development each day. Was today a wasted day, a good day, or a great day for developing their skills? And I just think that's so important. It might seem like a simple concept, but if you haven't been shown, it might not be a concept that you just magically arrive at on your own. So I love how you kind of just make it very simple. You kind of break it down into, here's how to do what we're talking about, you know.
Yes.
And so that's just huge. Now, I do have a question as far as, okay, so the kid's doing this, the young athlete, and is this something that they would share with their parents, or is it something that is just theirs, or what how does that part work?
No, good question. I think it's up to the athlete and the parent and the relationship they have, and with communicating, and but also, it's meaningful that the parents have the same vision, that stacking momentum could be negative if they're stacking wasted days after wasted days. You're stacking wasted days, right? And you're
Right.
not going to really get anywhere. But if you're stacking great day after great day after great day, that's a different concept.
Right.
It takes a lot of maturity. I mean, look, we're really asking 13-year-olds to act like they're already in college.
Right. Right.
And it's very hard to do, but that's one of the things I do with every lesson. Even if I'm working with an 8-year-old, I'll go to the I'll go to the kid. I'll get down to their level. And I'll go, look, Joey, you have great athleticism, but can I treat you like you're already 18? I know you're 8, but when we were together, you're 18. Is that okay? And they always go, yeah. And
Right, of course.
right, they love it. But anyway, but yeah, journaling is important. It's not something a lot of kids would do. But the ones that are, I think, on the right path, they don't mind doing that because journaling keeps them on track.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So another topic for me with stacking momentum is having the athlete be accountable for taking a 1-hour lesson every day with somebody very special, which is themselves. So that would mean maybe 20 minutes in the morning before school or before they go to summer camp, do push-ups and sit-ups. Maybe later on at night, do some shadow swings if you need to change a motor program or flawed stroke. Remember they used to call it muscle memory, right? But
right.
You
Yes.
know that, yeah. So we know memory is not really stored in the muscles. It's a neural program, right? Going through your nervous. But anyway, so yeah, taking a lesson with yourself, man, that's inner belief. If you can start doing that as an athlete, that's big.
That's such. I have a quick little fun story that been working with a young lady. I mean, she started when she was like 5 with me, but at this point she was 13 or 14, and her family, they were going to Paris for spring break, and it's pretty nice. And it was so cute that she would take videos. There's a video of her like doing push-ups in front of, the pyramid outside the Louvre, and she's like,
oh, very cool.
Doing my push-ups outside the Louvre, I mean, and so she kept sending me these little video clips of her doing her stuff in front of these cool places in Paris. And it was just so much fun to interact with her that way. I mean, technology is incredible. So anyway, that's just a fun little story. But so when you get into the next point here about momentum, I ate this up. I mean, I love it. So executing momentum. You say understanding psychological momentum plays a key role in closing out matches. That is just such a huge concept. You just touched on it a minute ago. To be able to close out a match, and just being able to identify the momentum, how to, you say through this, how to get it, how to keep it, and what to do when you don't have it. I think the first thing to do is recognize when you do or when you don't. And then, of course, for the parent watching, to be educated on, okay, momentum, great. What does that actually mean? I mean, we see it in sports all the time, like whether it's football or basketball or what, it's like the hurry up defense or the hurry up offense that you see. And, you want to, that's stacking that momentum. You don't want to lose it. And so, you see it in little ways. Like if you lose 3 games in a row, it's like, okay, you got to slow this down, go to the bathroom, or, take extra toweling off or do whatever. But I love this part. So, and this one actually just truly, I would love for you to explain this a little more, delve into a little more. So it says momentum is a bidirectional concept affecting either the probability of winning or losing. And I was kind of like, okay, big statement. Can you extrapolate for us, Frank?
Yeah, I know for sure. Yeah, so the negative momentum or the downward spiral of momentum, it could be correlated with the fact that the opponent is playing terrific. It might not be that you're playing bad. It might just be that they're off the hook right now and they're performing, at their peak performance level. And so sometimes we have to just hold on. We don't have the momentum, right? So understanding when you have it and when you don't is a big part of time management and controlling the speeds of a match, things like that. But in my opinion, recognizing things like momentum or energy management, intensity management, focus management, those are all found in practice matches.
Yes.
But, as you guys all know, there's a serious deficiency in the number of actual practice matches that that players go out there and do. So practice matches are where all these different decisions and focal points are actually rehearsed. So practice matches to me are like dress rehearsals.
Yes.
A gal that I know here in California, she's a Broadway actress, and she said in dress rehearsals, once they get the job, they have to do 6 to 8 weeks of dress rehearsals, 6 days a week, 8 hours a day.
Wow.
So they spend so much time on dress rehearsals, so everything becomes automatic pilot, right? They can be intuitive, not have to consciously think about everything they're doing. Well,
Well, during that 6 to 8 weeks, there's bound to be some things that go wrong, and so encountering those things that go wrong in the dress rehearsals just further prepares for the live performance. And so again, it's like we've talked about before, how do you deal with adversity? What do you do when somebody kind of a monkey wrench is thrown into the plan?
Yeah.
So yes, dress rehearsals are so important.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's all about problem solving and paying attention. And those are all found actually in between point routines, right? This is your second performance of a match. So if you think about your match play as 3 separate performances, right? There's the point, there's the in-between point time, and then there's the changeover sit down time. And we have job descriptions in all of those, but most intermediate athletes don't buy into it yet. They don't get that in between points. That's when the thinking and the problem solving,
that's right,
the calming down the emotions.
That's right.
Sometimes it's even in between points, it's your ability to not overthink. If things are going great, you don't want to throw your own monkey wrench into the equation, right?
That's right.
You're cruising. So yeah, so practice matches are so important. So if players are not really performing well, like if they say things like, I played great in practice, but horrible in a match, almost always it's because they're not used to making their own decisions.
Right.
That causes stress, right? And decisions are found in matches, not in lessons.
That is so interesting. So that takes us right into influencers stopping your athlete from building momentum. And then we have this list, and it's
Uh,
negative body language and state of mind, being judgmental about mistakes, wandering mind, which causes unforced errors, choosing to be combative, match awareness mistakes. And so there's so many big things right there in this list of influencers stopping your athlete from building momentum. And right off the bat, I loved the first one because I kind of love the idea of body language and so take us through this list here.
well, yeah, body language is really important in competitive tennis, right? A lot of the communication is not verbal. It's when the opponent sees that the shoulders are shrugged down and the eyes are wandering to different chords, it really pumps them up. So it's not your job to fuel the opponent's optimism, right? You kind of want to destroy their hope. I mean, that sounds mean, but
no, but I mean,
but that's your job, right?
yeah.
And then being overly judgmental about mistakes is I think stressing too much about the mistake itself, as opposed to maybe just categorizing the cause of the mistake. And that's something we talk about a lot. Was it a reckless shot selection, or was it really poor form?
The idea.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say the third one on that list about being, the wandering mind. And
yes,
athletes that don't play a lot of practice matches, they don't really know where their head is. Their body can be on court 6 at the club, but their mind may be way into the future or back into the past. So knowing where your mind's wandering off to, that stems with practice matches, but also the concept of doing match play video analysis with your coach.
Yes.
This is so big that the athlete actually sits down. I do about 3-4 hours a day on Zoom with different athletes around the country, but we're on Zoom, we analyze the matches. We do stats, we do charting, and we mainly look at in-between point routines and rituals, because that's what dictates the play.
Right.
Anyway, but that's part of this whole match awareness, right?
Absolutely.
Man.
Also going back to the idea of being judgmental or overly judgmental about mistakes, this is something I see often, and it can be really a dangerous thing. Like I had a player not too long ago that when they would get upset about a mistake, they would actually like hit themselves on the leg with their racket. I'm sure you've seen this, but plenty of people do it. And so she's hitting her leg kind of hard, and she actually hit her. So then she hits her ankle.
Oh no.
And it really hurt, as it would. And so it's like, oh no, now, you're berating yourself about this mistake and you're physically hurting yourself. And then it's like, oh my gosh, now you've hit your ankle really hard. So in that moment, we could turn it, kind of spin it to where, okay, it's kind of funny. It's not funny, but it's kind of funny.
At the moment it's not, right?
Yeah, at the moment it's not, but later on, when we talk about it in a couple of days, you can be like, okay, when you feel that urge, think about that ankle. Please don't hit yourself with your racket anymore. Like, let's find a better coping mechanism.
In psychology, the nickname is ants, automatic negative thoughts, right? And players have a habit of going right to it. But the question that's meaningful with to share with the athletes is, what's a better approach? Reacting like emotionally or responding calmly?
Right.
So reacting emotionally, of course not. Right. But in the moment, it's tough to do.
That's right. So more fun to talk about, I guess, in a way, is now when you hold on to momentum. And so this
Mhm.
you have, apply bold body language, which I love that right off the bat. Focus on script of top plays, maintain intensity, um, physical like heart rate management, and verbal self encouragement. So that's a fun list.
Yeah. And like I mentioned earlier, though, when you have the momentum, um, sometimes it's just staying on script, staying on the path, and
Mhm.
not letting your own inner voice pull you off the path, right? So the inner devil inside, that,
Right,
you
right.
know, the little dark passenger that's saying, "Oh my God, you're beating the number 2 seed. This is incredible. How are you doing it?" The next thing you know, you start overthinking and analyzing what you're doing, and
Right.
so it's best, it's best not to over over stress when you're winning. Just enjoy the ride and keep it going as long as you can. That's a great job.
Yep. I find it so mind-boggling in a way when you'll see players that are just steamrolling, right?
Yeah,
They have the momentum, they're just on fire, and then they sort of blink and realize that they're on fire, and then they either try harder to replicate what they've been doing, but they're not in that same zone anymore, or they just kind of then go, okay, I worked hard to get here, now I'm going to cruise. And we've talked about that before too. It's like when you have the momentum and you're rolling, don't change.
yeah.
Keep doing what's working. and,
It's a great point. It's a great point.
and don't blink.
Yeah, a lot of kids they overthink their way out of the match. You know what I mean? They complicate something that's uncomplicated.
Right, right, right.
But
um,
look, adults do it too. I mean, if you ever,
oh, of
you watch
course.
adult league tennis, and it's
Oh, sure.
just as wacky. So
Oh yeah, I was playing a doubles match. This is I'll be quick, but this is so funny. I was playing a doubles match a couple years ago with this lady, great player. We're winning. We're like up 5-2 in the first set. And we communicate between points and all. We just win this game to go up 5-2, and it's her turn to serve. And she looked at me straight in the eyes and she goes, this is the point of the match where I always get so tight. And I was like, we're up 5-2. Like, what I mean, I didn't, I wasn't saying this to her in the moment, obviously.
yeah,
To myself, I'm like, what? We're up 5-2 and it's your serve. Like, just what do you mean this is when you get tight? You know?
yeah.
People just respond in funny ways.
You
You
see it a
know,
lot, right?
yeah,
They
oh, yeah,
take their foot off the gas and go to push mode when they're
absolutely.
winning comfortably by just playing their attacking style. It's absolutely positively working. And
Mhm.
then they stop and they go, okay, be careful,
Yep.
don't choke, be
Yep.
safe. And
Right.
then they blow it.
And it's important too that you say that momentum is always going to fluctuate. And so
Yeah.
it's good. It's good for the parent to understand and the player, hopefully the coach already, would have that concept. But, to say to a player, you have the momentum, keep going, blah, blah. And then maybe the opponent went to the bathroom or slowed things down, slowed down the pace of play, or changed their strategy, or
Mhm.
something, and then so it goes to the opponent that now has the
Yeah.
momentum. And so it's so important that the player and the parent knows what they're watching, that it's going to fluctuate. So it's not
Yeah.
like they have it now and so it's all over. I think it's so important to, identify when you have it, identify when you don't, and then
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
how do you get it back? And so I love how you kind of put that out.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I think if parents are wondering, yeah, so how do we do it? Um, Again, the key concept comes with practice matches. And what I mean by that is full matches, like play 3 sets.
Right.
Because, it's all about practicing in the manner you're expected to perform. And often our kids are at best what I would nickname them 1 set wonders.
Yeah.
And this is, they go to play practice matches. They talk on the phone. They do their Insta Twit or whatever they're doing for 20 minutes. They rally for 20 minutes. They play maybe 1 set. They go home. Well, this is promoting their ability to focus and problem solve for 1 set. But, really good athletes, like really good competitors, they have plan A's and contingency plans, and
Right.
they're going to change what they're doing. And if our athletes aren't used to handling change, then they implode, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
and I think it's so important too, and the practice matches are just like you said, the key to all of this, because I can recall a time that I was more exhausted mentally than I was physically. Like I was obviously this is years ago when I was in good shape, but my body physically, I was ready and physically I was good, but I remember literally I'm playing doubles and had played a lot. It's getting into like the third day of the tournament, and I had to just take a bathroom break, go in there, and I was actually like in tears. It's like that I was mentally tired,
yeah,
even though physically I was fine. And going back to the practice matches, it takes a level of self-discipline to, like you said, play more than 1 set, and actually focus. So you're not just chit-chatting away or, texting and whatever, but to train that mental focus is so key, like you said. And then the self-awareness to know the difference between being mentally tired or physically tired. Where is your vulnerability right now? And it takes a lot of time for some of us. Like I said, it took me a long time to realize that and go, okay, I'm actually just mentally exhausted. I'm trying to get myself, ready for each point, and I'm tired, and physically I'm fine. So I think developing that skill set of self-awareness so.
And now with Zoom, there are a lot of great mental coaches out there. And if you're athletes, if you find that they're having more trouble in matches with the software, with the mental and the emotional, seek out a mental coach, because there's quite a few great ones across the country. But again, if you're doing it on Zoom, it doesn't matter if you're in Africa.
Right. Right. So the next point we go to, and of course, I love this part. I'm a huge fan of the ITPA, which is International Tennis Performance Association. And so when we get into fueling momentum, and primary energy sources are oxygen, nutrition, and hydration. And you further break that down into, we've talked before about deep breathing. As far as oxygen, you need deep breathing between points, and nutrition, eating what and when. And then hydration, you have pre, during, and post match hydrate. So those 3 things, so important. And for muscles, lungs, and brain function, and especially hydration, to increase energy, improve recovery, regulate body temperature, and aid mental clarity. So again, fueling your body is contributing to all the fueling momentum that you have here.
Yes. Especially if you're planning on getting to the back end of the tournament.
Right.
you know,
Right.
the third day. And with, with you guys that live in the South, I mean, it is hot and
It is
humid.
so
And I
hot.
mean, I don't want to brag, but it's 68 degrees right now at my house in Laguna Beach. So we
Right.
might get up to 72. And yeah.
Down at Mobile Tennis Center, I know you've spent a lot of time there as well, but it is so hot down there in Mobile.
Mm,
All
yes.
of them. But yeah, I have so many hot memories from from Mobile Tennis Center. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
People that run it are great, but it's hot. So yeah, you gotta prepare for the environment in which you're going to be in. I mean, I
that's
remember the first time that um, you were there when we were both at Tennis Congress, and I had never played in the different altitude and the difference. It's such a dry heat versus, I'm used to sweating all the time. And I remember trying to hit, and my ball would just go just
yeah,
and I'm like, oh, what is going on? So preparing for the environment you're going to be in, I said,
yeah, yeah.
sweating it out at Mobile Tennis Center, that's one thing. But then, if you're in Tucson and you're not
Yes.
playing, you might forget that, yes, you still need to drink on that changeover, even though you're like, I'm not sweating. It's like, well, you're in a different environment from maybe what you're used to. So,
It's
but
great.
that takes us into heart rate monitoring, which again, this I get so excited about this stuff. So yeah, I mean, one of the things you say is monitoring fitness, fatigue, and performance are crucial. And again, I think that goes back to self-awareness. But tell us a little bit about what you think, as far as the heart rate monitoring. How does that factor into momentum?
Well, it's massive.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing how to calm down your breathing and sometimes when to raise or lower your heart rate,
Mm-hmm.
pumping yourself up versus calming yourself down. Those are essential with momentum.
Yes.
What I've been messing with the last 6-8 months is the idea of getting athletes to go back to wearing their, $30 Fitbit.
Right.
Because here in, I'm not sure about the whole country, but you're not allowed to wear an iWatch here in California during match play because you can receive texts on
Right.
that, right? So
Exactly.
there's some creative stuff going on.
Right.
But with the Fitbit, though, what I've been finding, and this is my own little bit of research, but when athletes play above a 115 heart rate, and it's individualized, right? It's customized to everybody, but anything below 115 and they're a little bit sluggish, they got to pump themselves up.
Right.
They got to raise their energy, raise their adrenaline.
Mm-hmm.
Now, anything above, if you go way up above the 145s, 150s into the 200s, now your heart rate's too high and you're into a panic mode, right?
That's right. That's right.
And when you're in panic mode, you can't problem solve and process information. And so now you have to lower your heart rate. But so we have athletes when they're playing competitive practice sets and even doing drills, we have them stop and check their Fitbit, check their heart rate. Because peak performance, it's not just tennis, I got to be honest, but like even, for example, in auto racing, the pit is monitoring the heart rate of the driver, and they tell them, look, you got to calm down, relax, or pump up now, and your heart rate's too low, your heart rate's too high, because that influences your decision making and your match playability. And so athletes, if you're not sure about where your heart rate is, try one of those little inexpensive Fitbit.
Yeah, you don't have to spend a ton of money. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Remember, it used to be like you would count your steps. Like 5-6 years ago, you wear a Fitbit to count your steps. And I remember my wife would call me about, you have to get out there and exercise more. You haven't done your 10,000 steps. So I would take this Fitbit and I would attach it to my dog's collar and I would have our golden retriever run around the yard, and then I would get my numbers up.
There's your tag team.
That's right.
Tag team with the puppy dog. I love it.
Right on.
That's so great. So kind of wrapping up the heart rate, it says monitoring their heart rate provides a way to gauge intensity and stress, both psychological and physiological, occurring during training and match play. And so I just love the idea because, again, it's more self-awareness. Again, you're going, okay, how do I feel when my heart rate is this? What is happening when my heart rate is that? And so, again, just that education is so important. And it is something to share with the parents so that if they're watching, they can see if you say the intensity is too low, they're not moving their feet, they're slower swing speeds, appearing disconnected, versus the intensity too high where they appear careless and reckless, breathing is fast and shallow, and they're in a panic mode. And so I think, number one, the athlete themselves, they need to be able to monitor this for themselves. But then, a parent watching, it's really important for them to know for a variety of reasons, if you're watching I mean, my niece, she would be so mad about me telling this story, but there was a tournament in Montgomery, Alabama, which is also very hot. And she had lost out of the main draw and was really upset about it. We had talked through goals and we didn't get there. And so it's like an 8:00 in the morning, back draw match. And she was just like, I mean, we warmed up, did all of our normal routines and things. And she just was kind of standing there waiting to return and just sort of, it's that low intensity. And I'm like, yeah, is her heart rate there? Is she alive? Like what's going on?
And intermediate athletes don't pick up on that. And we've seen it, but after a while, the advanced athletes, they already know. They don't even have to wear their Fitbit. They know when their intensity is way too low or, even way too high and getting into that panic zone. But look, for most of us, though, catastrophe is going to strike in matches when athletes are not playing in their peak performance zone, right?
Right.
So anyway, that's pretty advanced stuff, but I think that's fun, and I think nobody's too young to start doing it, right?
I love that stuff. And so then it takes us, and we've already been sort of alluding to it so far, but training blocks. So you say practice in the manner you're expected to perform from, we both love Vic Braden. We had touched on this before. And so I was so excited when I read it. And I was like, oh, this is what we were talking about, where you say approximately 75% of match time is between points or during changeovers. So this time demands critical problem solving skills. So back to the software idea there.
Yes.
So the training block, I love how in the book you said, if you're about to play an event and you're going to have to play 2 matches in a day, we need to train where this 2 hours ish for a match and then a break. What are you going to eat? What do you need to do? Because now we're going to come back and do another training block. So I love this idea of training blocks. So elaborate a little bit on that for us.
Well, I like the idea that when we're training the high performance players that want to do well in national tournaments, that they have to just replicate a tournament day. And so, we had California sectionals this last weekend, and there were some matches with some of my players, and they're in the 3-hour mark. They're doing full 3 sets in these tournaments, and then they have to come back, though. They have an hour, they have to come back and do it again.
Right.
And these are the top 32 kids in the state. So it's not easy. It's difficult, but
not easy.
Yeah. So a practice day maybe should be what the nickname here is, twofers. That means they do a set in the morning where they're training and working on skills
Mhm.
lunch break, relax, recover, and then come back and do live ball for another 2 hours. So their body gets used to the physical, mental, emotional demands of a tournament.
Yes, that's so key right there. And another huge point here, you say on the practice court, replace stationary grooving with match time simulations. And so that goes right into what you were just saying, but I think that's so important and that's to the player and to the parent, but I think this one is special for the coaches as well. To
Yes.
if you're running that block of time, how do you use that time well? And so, are you just going to sit there and feed some balls? Maybe your thinking is like, well, they're tired, they have to play another match, I don't want to wear them out, so I'm just going to feed a few balls here. She was missing her backhand in the net, so I'm just going to feed her a few backhands. And it's like, no, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So just again, it just goes to how important it is for each member, whether it's the parent, the player, the coach, where everybody needs to be in it to win it,
It's win it. Yeah.
making good decisions. Yeah.
Yeah, there's situational training. We're talking about that right now, and I think there's phases of training, and there's periodization, which is knowing when to like take the player like a race car and take the wheels off, put it on blocks, fix the engine. There's a time to change mechanics.
Right. Yes.
But not right before the tournament, right? Because that's going to cause the athlete to not have the old stroke anymore, not have the new stroke yet, and they're very confused.
Right.
So knowing when to try new things is very important. But in general, though, if coaches can replace grooving drills, grooving fundamentals with situational training, like offensive situations, what are your top 3 plays on offense? And let's do those repeatedly. And then neutral, when you're on neutral, how do you hit building shots? What are you trying to do that fits in your personal tennis identity? And of course, defense, right? When you're on defense, what are your smart choices? Should you take a deep cross court ball when you're 20 feet behind the baseline and try to kill it up the line? Probably not, right? But we can't resist. We go for that sometimes, but
yes, like
right?
like a moth to the flame.
Yeah, right, exactly. But yeah, that's all practicing in the manner you're expected to perform, right?
Yes. So this next point, I love it. Took me back to Dr. Mark Kovacs. He actually has a drill called the MK drill. And what that drill does is, the players, if it's a group or player, if it's not a group, you stand behind the doubles line. And so you're going to be running across the court, just on one side of the court, doubles line to doubles line, and back to where you started. And so that would be the first round, just down and back. And then you have a timed recovery, and then you go down and back, down and back. So it builds up as it goes. But I would actually had a stopwatch, but you can do it on your phone, to go, okay, your play recovery cycles is how you put it in the book. And that's just immediately where my mind went to the MK drill. Cause it's like, okay, once down and back, you get 18 seconds or whatever, but you go longer, you get longer. And so it's an endurance drill, and but training that play and recovery cycle, is just so important and should not be overlooked. So I got so into all this stuff. Of course, I love all this stuff. So you say apply anaerobic training, combining cognitive processing speed with footwork exercises. And I'm like, yes, I love that. Yeah. So those are a lot of great words. But how would you kind of just expand on that a little bit?
Well, to simplify that, court speed is a combination of footwork, foot speed, right?
Mhm.
And brain speed. That's the cognitive processing. So a
Yep.
lot of times you might see an athlete that's very fast on their feet. Like when you have kids, you see them run to the water fountain,
Right.
and this kid, they can fly get to that
They were
water
just
fountain.
dragging, barely moving during the point, and then it's water break, and it's like,
Yeah,
yeah.
but sometimes the court speed is because they hesitate, they overthink, and
Mhm.
they're so worried about maybe being a perfectionist and not getting things incorrect. You know, they get so worried they analyze every possible problem and what their solution might be. You know, okay, it's Tuesday at 4 o'clock and the wind speed is 32 degrees north by southwest. And they're like really analyzing all this stuff. But I think we have to try to get the kids to practice, you know, the idea that tennis is an open skilled sport and you have to change directions, milliseconds on the dime. So as coaches, even parents, when you go out and work with your children, try not to have them maybe work on their agility. The agility is different than speed, right? Speed is running into a direction that you know you're going. Agility is when you don't know where you're going and you have to change left, right, up, and back. But parents, if you want to help your child with their court speed, put different colored cones out and then randomly yell out green, blue,
Right.
yellow,
Yep.
yellow, green. And now you'll see they'll hesitate and they'll take one step and they'll go the other way and they won't know where to go. And but now you got to quicken their brain speed. That's the cognitive processing part, right?
Yeah. There is a I'm not a video game person. I'm not much of a gamer, but there is a game, and I think it's like a dance. I can't remember, it's like Dance Off or something like that, where on the floor, the different things will light up, and so
Ah,
something lights up, and so you put your foot there. Something else
you
lights up, so you put your foot. So it's kind of moving around, and it's a. Like I said, I wish I could think of the name of the game, but it's a video game, and I'm like, no, that's a video game that I think is pretty useful because you're cognitively
yes,
saying, oh, red, oh, yellow, and then speed it up, and so it's actually a pretty cool thing.
it really is.
But again, I got this. I love this chapter. I'm trying to keep it short because I could go on and on. But I love this part, and this one reminded me of our another mutual friend, Craig O'Shaughnessy, who talks a lot about serve plus one, return plus one, you know, how many shots per point. And so when I got to this part of the chapter, I was like, yes, yes, okay, yes, I got this. You know, and I think people get you can't see what you see in a way. That's a weird way to put it. But would the average person, if they were asked how many strokes are in a rally for a point, you'd get a million different answers. And you say, you know, it averages 2.5 strokes per rally, and that is what research proves. So this isn't just something that you or I or Craig or whoever dreamed up. I mean, this is through a lot of analysis that shows, you know, you say 70% of points last up to 4 hits. And so that goes into the serve plus one, return plus one. 20% are 5 to 9 shots, and 10% are 10 shots. You know, so when you see highlight reels, you know, it might show a point that, you know, the I call it tea kettle tennis. You know, it's like it's getting hot, it's getting hot, it's getting hot, and then it's gonna go like
Yeah, right on.
like your tea kettle, you know. So a lot of times you'll see those long points on a highlight reel, or you see, you know, like the trick shots or the winners. But it's so important. This is such an important thing to know, and it's so important to know that there is fact-driven research behind this. This isn't
Yeah,
just, you know, what I think, or, you know, this is real. It's analysis,
yeah.
and it's so important to know. So yeah, talk a little bit more about, you know, how to approach this, whether it's a training, like a lesson or a clinic, or if it's a practice match, or, what is you're going on. For this, one thing that I just do as a side note is, again, we've talked about training parents how to watch a match. What do you see? If all you see is a double fault or a backhand in the net, that's not going to be fun to watch, number one. But, we talked a little bit last time about training to see the good things. Did you see your player was doing something they'd been working on and they tried it in the match, whether it worked or not? That's a thing. That's a good thing to see. And so I would have the parent do a simple little chart of, a column under their player and a column for the other player, and, 0 to 4, 5 to 9, or 10 plus, and just put a little tally mark, and who wins the point in that shot range. And so, like I said, this is completely fact driven, because then once you have a parent looking for specifically that, and it's easy to do because you're just counting shots, right? And so, parents, it kind of is eye opening to go, oh wow,
Yeah.
oh wow, this is right,
Yeah.
and that can completely transform, your thinking and the practice court, and a million different ways. But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about getting into the just that idea of
Sure.
you know
Well, this is going to show my age, but when I right out of college, I came to California. I started working at the Vic Braden Tennis College. This is in the mid to late 1980s.
Mhm.
And the research that we did there, which was back then was the National Tennis Research Center in Costa de Caza. But what we did back then was the length of point. And we did these charts for singles and doubles from juniors to adults to pros.
That's so cool.
This is in the early 80s, right? This is, or sorry, not early 80s, the late 80s. And the number was 2.9 hits was the average in 3.9 in singles, I think 2.8 or 2.9 in doubles. So those numbers were very, very similar than they are today. CompuTennis in the 90s, it was CompuTennis that really took the leading role in doing the same stats. They found the same numbers.
Wow.
And of course, IBM Watson is doing all this the stats and charting in pros.
Okay.
And they're finding the same numbers, which is it's where our friend Craig is getting his data from that, right?
Right.
And so it's cool that it's like it's not new. This is very, very old. We're talking 50 years old, and
right. But it still holds true. And so again, it's like the whole idea of raising awareness of going, how aware are we of this phenomenon? And even though the game has changed so much in the last 50 years, this has actually kind of remained the same, which also is like, oh wow, so the racket technology or string technology, or more fitness, more time in the gym, it's like whether or not it was Steffi Graf or Serena, it's like these numbers, the numbers don't lie, they are what they are.
I think the more we know data, the better we can coach and the better parents can parent.
Yep.
And that's why one of the books I have out is called the Match Chart Collection. And it's like 12 super easy charts that parents can do. And then they can send the info. I recommend, though, remember, send the info directly to the coach, text it to the coach. Try not to coach your kid on the way home. Just let the coach do the coaching. But it's also really de-stressing if the parent has a job to do during the match, so they're not shaking their head in disgust, and the kids watching.
You're not hanging, really hanging on every shot. No, it's not that you have a job. And it's
Well,
just
yeah,
count to five. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, the whole idea about, practicing in the manner you're expected to perform. Remember that the last kind of topic on this that I can share is, remember that an average point is about 130 points.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they're going to play 2 matches a day. They have to be ready to play, 260 violent points of keep away. They're not playing cooperative catch to each other nicely, right? They're bolting, they're delivering and receiving on the dead move 260 times in a day.
And
so
that's a lot. I mean, all
it
goes
is.
into it. There's so much more that goes into that. You can say that statement, but then you go, okay, all those other things are contributing factors to how you can do that. It goes back to the how and the why. Okay, here's how to do this over and over and over again. And here's why we need to be able to do this over and over and over again. So sort of the technique and the tactic, the how and the why, and that going into a player's intensity, it helps to know why you need.
It does.
If you're just out there hitting balls and you don't really know what you're doing, it's sort of undefined, just space. And so the idea of, I know these numbers, even if you're not a numbers person, I wouldn't really consider myself a numbers person, but these are pretty easy to work with.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's not really that hard to work with. And so I had made a special star next to this point too, is what you just said, the shift from playing catch to keep away. Training should simulate match cycles of intensity. So I love the idea of catch and keep away. That makes so much sense, because you start a young player with the idea of sending and receiving. So you get used to that idea of controlling back and forth, the cooperative play, and then work into making it competitive. And so again, it's how to do something and then why to do that something. So I love that. And then my last little thing here is which again we've touched on some in the past, but I love this stuff. How personality dictates behavior. It says your athlete will maximize their potential much quicker when their training simulates the specific demands of match play. And so just I think that's a beautiful way to kind of encapsulate the whole conversation today. In beautiful chapter 4.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think we're really trying our best, people like you and myself, that a lot of times coaching is still in the dark ages. I mean, a lot of coaches out there around the world are still teaching the same things that they were teaching in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And but I mean, thanks to people like you, we're hopefully we're more of the outliers who are going to like pull the industry a little bit and try to get most of the coaches to add new concepts. But it also is from coaches, look, it really behooves you to do these things too, because it improves your bottom line. Because you have way more things to teach.
That's right.
You have way more lesson plans. So the clubs make more money, the snack bar makes more money, the trainers make more money. So anyway, it's a win-win. So
that's right. Yeah. Well, Frank, this has been so much fun to talk about. I've been looking forward to talking about chapter 4, and it did not disappoint. In fact, I have so many more things in my notes that we couldn't get to, but I know our time has already run over a bit. But I want to say thank you again for your time. Your time is so valuable. And so I think this was another good one. Yeah.
Again, thank you so much. And thanks everybody for watching. And if you have any friends that might need the info, feel free to share it.
Yep. We're on iTunes and YouTube and SoundCloud, and easily to share on Facebook or Twitter. Instagram's a little bit different with how you share a link, but yeah, you can find this. We're all over the place. So thanks for listening to us. Yeah, and share with your friends. Again, I'll put Frank's contact info up, which he has so generously offered. And so, it's a good offer. Take him up on it.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Until next time. Thank you, Frank.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.